Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for everyone showing up and spending a few minutes. It is informal. We're going to do a little welcome here. I'll say a little story I know about Charles from the beginning. Those of you who don't know this, it's being recorded, so keep the stories pretty above board. And I want to say thanks to Don Jones, the city manager for Forest Park, for arranging this, and for Chief Bill Arns for helping us to arrange it as well, and certainly for everyone that's here and those who served with Charles. It's just amazing that we still remember Charles after 20 years and all of that kind of stuff. So when we do some talking, Waycross Elementary or middle school, either one. Waycross TV wants us to use this mic. We're not going to have a mic, so you have to speak up, especially for me since I'm deaf in my left ear. And I want to say thank you for Laura and Kip Gilworth for being here. Laura was Charles's fiance at the time of his passing. His son Brandon and his family is here with us. And I'll let you introduce yourselves as we go around very quickly. Just say your name and your role in Forest Park. This is my wife, Charlene.
Well, I don't have to say anything.
She's my hero.
Thank you.
And this is Ray Hodges, a former city manager.
I just want to say hello. Glad to be with you. Glad to see so many faces that I've worked with and people that have touched the lives in the city and who Charles has touched in particular. So just glad to be here with you. Thank you.
Well, we'll just pass this around. Just say us who you are.
I'm Stuart Duncan. I grew up with Charles, and I lived in Forest Park until I was 21.
Kip Galbraith, friend of Charles.
Laura Galbraith, fiance, and I want to thank you guys so much. It's good to see your faces, a lot of you. Thank you.
Take it. CJ. Here you go, honey.
Brandon Johnson, Charles McDonald's son. These are my boys and my family here.
Pat Anderson, retired police officer, City of Forest Park, friend of Major Payne's.
Dave DeSalvo, current police officer, been there 22 years, also a friend of Major Payne's.
Darnell Narrett, police sergeant. I've been here for 14 years, and I didn't know Charles, but I heard a lot of great things about him, so I feel like I do know him.
Chris Broush, police officer with the city, and same as Sarge said here, been here 7 years and heard a lot of good things about him.
Dave Roberts, I've been here 4 years at Forest Park. I didn't know Charles, but he's left a good legacy here.
I'm Don Jones. I'm the current city manager. I want to thank everyone for being here today, and we're glad to be a part of this and to remember all the fine work you did at Forest Park. So thanks for everyone for coming.
I'm Andy Lewandowski. I'm the assistant city manager. I've only been here about 8, 9 years. Didn't know Charles, but I'm just here to listen to the stories.
Yeah, my name is Bill Arns. I'm the current police chief. I've been with the city for 34 years as a police officer, and I also attended Forest Park High School with Charles when we were still in high school.
Bubba Huber, retired police officer from the city of Forest Park after 33 years. I worked with Charles. He's a great dude. Loved him to death. Miss him every day.
Tony Vitri, retired in 2011, was a lieutenant with Forest Park Police. I did work with Charles, and he was a good guy.
Jeff Carnine, I'm a detective here at Forest Park. I've been here 13 years. I did not know Charles, but heard great things.
Rick Jones, Forest Park, been here 24 years. Worked with Charles, friend of Charles.
Adam Pape, been here 22 years. Knew Charles a couple years before he passed. He was a great guy.
Jim Ward, Forest Park Police, 32 years, worked with Charles, cleaned up a few messes of Charles.
Veda Harris, I've been with Forest Park for 22 years. I've met Charles originally back in Mount Healthy days. We played football with each other, and long story short, he's a great guy, and I miss him.
Tyler Simpson, a family friend, and friends with little Charles.
Hi, Diane Simpson, and Charles was a great friend of our families, and we sure miss him.
Don Simpson, former employee here for Forest Park. And obviously Charles was a great friend of our family and personal friend of mine as well as a coworker.
Bill Black, Forest Park Fire Department.
Julie Sheets, the court clerk for the police department, and I only worked with Charles a handful of times because I started in February of that same year.
Jermaine Hill, City of Forest Park Fire Department. Been here 21 years and had the pleasure of working alongside Charles. He's a good dude.
Rebecca Davis, Forest Park Police Department. I did not have the pleasure of working with Charles, but I have heard some stories.
Fred Smith, Forest Park Police Department. Been here for 14 years. I did not have a chance to meet Charles, but I heard nothing but great things about him.
Colin Bogart, Forest Park Police. Been here 5 years. Same, just like every other younger officers. We just heard great things about him.
Alfie Jones, Forest Park Fire Department. I'm the fire chief, and I do remember Charles real well. And as I thank Ken for having this remembrance today. Let's put a positive spin on it because we will all be together on our next life. So we'll see Charles once again.
Ron Wilson, Forest Park Police Department. Been here for 13 years. I did not know Charles, but I've heard good things about him.
Michelle Hawkins, the secretary at the police department. I've been here 26 years. I did know Charles, and I also heard a lot about him.
I'm Dave Bisking. I've been here 33 years. As a public works director, some in this room might not know, Charles actually started his employment with the City of Forest Park in the Public Works Department. And we have some stories, some good ones. But the best one, I was interviewed by one of the TV stations one time after a foot pursuit that Charles was involved in. There was an aerial camera that caught him, and he nailed this guy. It was a good open field tackle, and I said the Bengals could actually use him as a linebacker. Charles was a great individual. If you go down to the picnic grove, it's the Charles McDonald Grove, if people don't know it. Charles, he was involved with cleaning up that grove and making it presentable, and Ray can vouch for it. Him and John Sifke back in the day. So that's why when the memorial was put together and Kenny and everybody was involved, that was an appropriate place for him. But then he went over to the police department. We lost a good, valuable employee in Public Works, but he was more valuable at the police department.
Thank you. I'm Chuck Johnson, the current mayor of Forest Park. I was in my third year of council when Charles passed. I knew him well as I know any of the other police officers at that time. Some of the guys I know better now after so many years. As Ray and Dave said, I want to thank Chief Hughes and everybody who had a hand in putting this together. We don't ever want to forget those who served us and were part of us. Charles was certainly that. So I thank you all for being here for this, and I'm sure as Chief Jones says, Charles is looking down at us kind of grinning and laughing about and remembering some of the good old stories that you all would definitely have to tell. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much. Would this work if we put this on here and then either pass it around or folks can come up here and speak? Would that work for you? Either pass it around or have them come up. Either way. Okay. All right. Well, I like to talk with my hands. So I have several really fine memories of Charles. We used to go as a police department with the Cincinnati Police Department and a couple of other departments out to a place called Camp Joy, and we would spend the night there. The fun part about Charles is, of course, he never lost his role as a former Marine, and so he had those kids lined up, standing tall, saluting, all that kind of stuff. But my last memory of Charles before he passed was at the DARE graduation down at Waycross Elementary. And the kids had come in and they were at the table, and they were all talking. You know how that is. And Charles is in the kitchen. He's back in the kitchen. You can't see him. And Charles had asked for a waiver to wear a campaign hat, Smokey the Bear style cap. And I have a couple of, I don't know if everybody's seen this, but I'll pass this around. This is Charles' police car with that campaign hat. So anyway, it's kids are getting antsy. So you hear in the background, hear this, "What's the word?" And the kids, a few of them, they went, "Hoorah," which is the Marine Corps kind of cheer. And then Charles says, "What's the word?" And those kids just cheered. "Hoorah," they said. And Charles comes out. "What's the word?" "Hoorah." That's my story of Charles. We'll share, in closing here, I'll share a little bit about the malady that struck Charles and what caused him to pass away at the end of this little get-together. So who would like to step up and be first? Thanks, Don Simpson.
Well, I actually thought about this story prior to knowing there was going to be a camera here and it was going to be recorded, but
We can always edit it out. Clean it up.
and there's children present, so we gotta figure this out. No, I thought about what can I say about Charles. I had so many fond memories of him, but I thought one thing that a lot of people don't know, but there's some in this room that do know, this story or this event, as you would call it. Charles was working third shift at the time, but a number of us back in the day, we used to make some trips down to Keeneland racetrack. And every year, sorry, Bubba. Every year we would venture down to Keeneland about 8 a.m. in the morning. We'd drive down, we'd tailgate, cook out, have some adult beverages, and then we'd go on the track and have a good day and come back. But we kept telling Charles about it. Of course, he was working thirds. He said, "I'm going. I don't care if I get any sleep or not. I'm going to work thirds, get in the car. We'll go down and have a good day down there." So we said, "Great, you can sleep later." He was off the next day. So he ends up working thirds. We pick him up about 8 a.m. We're on our way, and he said, "Hey, stop at the UDF. I got to pick up some oil." I said, the hell you need oil for?" I said, "Whatever." So we pull into UDF, and I told Bubba and them other guys, I said, maybe he's worried about getting sunburn or something. I don't know. Well, of course, he comes out, and the oil is actually 2 40-ounce Old English 800s. And I said, "Yeah, okay, I got you." So anyway, we headed off to Keeneland. We get about halfway down there, and of course, we got to make a restroom break. And Keeneland's down in Lexington. You get about halfway down there back in the 90s, and there's pretty much nothing around. So we pull into a truck stop, and we all go in. Everyone's doing their thing, and a couple people buy some chips, and we buy some ice, and we all end up back at the car, and we all load up, and somebody says, "Where's Charles?" I don't know. Where is he? So we sit there another minute or two. Well, here he comes out the door running to the car, and he jumps in, and he's laughing. He said, "Man, don't ever do that to me again." He said, "You guys pulling a truck stop in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky." He said, "You left me in there?" He said, "The music from Deliverance came on." He said, I thought I was going to be violated before I ever got back to the car." So anyway, I think that's clean enough anyway. So anyway, we get to Keeneland, and we park in a certain spot every year, try to, and there's a big tree there. And we tailgate and had a great day. He drank his oil, and we get into the racetrack, and we had told him how to bet. Gone over it a few times with him, showed him the program. Well, we all make our bets. We go up. We're standing there waiting on the first race, and he's got a real weird look on his face. We said, "Charles, what's up?" He's like, "Well, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I went up and I told the guy what I wanted to bet, and he said, that'd be $120. And he said, I didn't want to look stupid, so I just gave him $120. So I got like $5 left." So anyway, he ends up losing the race, of course, like most of us did. But the funny thing is, the next day, he said, "Hey, I remember most of the day." He said, "But I got to thinking, I bet races all day, and I drank beer all day, and I eat food all day. How the hell did I do that?" Remember that, Bubba? And I said, "Well, you don't remember a whole lot about it, do you? He said, well, I do. I said, well, you were pretty tired and all that, but he said, I'm not sure how it happened. I said, well, do you remember the story about Kajana Carter? He said, who? I said, Kajana Carter. No. Well, for those of you who don't know who Kajana Carter is, back in the 90s, he was the Bengals' #1 draft pick. He was a running back out of Penn State, and much like Joe Burrow, he was supposed to be the Bengals' future. And much like Joe Burrow, he broke his knee in preseason, and unfortunately for him, he was on the Bengals. But anyway, at the time, he was highly recruited and well known in Cincinnati prior to coming and doing that, and he really resembled Charles. So when we were at the track that day, we may have told a few people standing around us that he was Kajana Carter. Well, he took that, and having a little oil in his system, he hammed it up a little bit, and I think everybody that stood around us bought us beers and hot dogs all day, and he signed a lot of autographs that weren't really Kajana Carter. And he took a lot of pictures, but we had an absolute blast, and then we continued that tradition every year. We'd go down. Laura gave us a limousine one year, hooked us up, and I can't talk about that, especially on television. But with the statute of limitations, no, we didn't do anything crazy. But we had a blast down there several times, and it's one of my special memories with Charles. Every year we go down. To this year, you go down and we have a toast. Anyway.
Great story.
Great memory.
You get to nominate the next person.
Oh, one thing I will add, every year, my wife and I have been going up to D.C. for Police Week, and we take a memorial up for Charles. And if anybody would ever want to send anything with us, we can display it up there for Police Week. We haven't gone the last 2 years because of COVID and everything, but we will continue that tradition. It's super special if you've never been. So, oh, Ray, how are you? Didn't get a chance to say that. Good to see you. Oh, by your way, Nick.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll be real brief here because we're here to really recognize and remember Charles. I don't have any personal stories of Charles. As the city manager at that time, I get reports, I hear things, and fortunately they were all good about Charles that I would hear. But I'm really here to help represent the fact that Charles was important for us. He represented the police department well. He represented the community well. And he represents the fact that we all play an important role in this community, and we're all united in some form or fashion. Fortunately, it's good to remember Charles in this way. So I know you guys have some great stories. Good. A lot of them didn't get back to me, but thank you.
Unfortunately.
Pat Anderson would be good. Good time for you to show up.
You're not allowed to nominate.
That's his story.
Just real brief, because I don't really have any stories I can tell on this camera that Don Simpson didn't share. I was part of the Keeneland trips a number of times with him. One of Charles's FTOs when he was here. Became friends immediately when they started doing that. And a lot of stories I can't tell. I just have to back away from that. But miss him greatly, and I'm glad he came here.
Did you name him Major Payne?
I don't think so. I might have been part of that.
Put the picture up.
I put the picture up of him. And he got the license plate on his own. I got him to get the 04 Payne license plate that he'd have on his car, which was pretty funny. But great guy. Thanks. I don't talk with my hands. I'm the current police chief of the police department. And when I got the phone call a couple weeks ago from Chief Hughes that it was Charles's 20-year anniversary of his passing, I was kind of struck because when you're kind of still working, things just kind of keep on going. And I thought back to 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago today, this was a very dismal day. The police department was rocked to its core. I remember getting a phone call, and I can't remember who I got the phone call from, and I just sat in the backyard and just couldn't believe that Charles was gone. But I remember Kenny saying at the time that we were going to get through this, that it would get better. And I wouldn't say it got better, but as time passes, the hurt seems to dull a little bit. And as I thought about that, I thought about the saying that is now very appropriate, gone but not forgotten. And that is exactly how Charles is treated at the police department even today. There are currently 12 members of the police department that actually worked with Charles. 10 officers and 2 civilians, one being Julie and one being Michelle. And the majority of everybody else, they rely upon our stories to keep Charles's spirit alive. And I know that the expression major pain has been mentioned here today. There's a license plate that used to be on Charles's car, and it says 04 pain. And that still hangs along with Charles's picture in the locker room at the police department. And I would say that every rookie that has come through has been told the story of what that means and who Charles was. So gone but not forgotten. Charles is still a very important part of the Forest Park Police Department and always will, despite a couple of retirements since his passing. We've had 19 people retire since Charles passed away in 2001. So, Charles, you're still remembered, and we love you.
I'm a Baptist, and this happens at the end of the sermon where they're asking you to come up and testify. So y'all can come up and witness anytime. Ain't that right?
Well, I'm not going up to the mic, but okay. I'm just going to say, when I think of Charles, I see his smile.
I'll tell you the stories about when we was younger. I knew Charles more as a kid versus, in our 30s. We played hard. We rode him back a few police cars. But besides that, Charles was probably the most hard-headed, determined person I've ever known. I got married when I was 18. He went in the Marine Corps, and he did everything he could to get his dress blues to be in our wedding. And, it just shows how hard and, respectful he is. We treated him, he was like a brother to me. My family always called it, my mom, my dad called him his son. And, it's just a hell of a guy. If you ever want to mimic somebody, he would be the one to mimic. It's just, a really good guy. So that's about it.
Well, I'll say a few things. I don't know if I want to say it, but it's great to see you all. And it's fun to laugh. We experienced, much like at the elementary school, the first day of school at our house, we had boys and we had a blended family. And he
we celebrated the last day of school. But Charles, I mean, he would hit the deck on the first day of school of every year. And it would be singing and what was the song? Goodbye or Sweetheart. I mean, he was singing and doing pancakes and the oorah and everybody fall out of bed, and it was a big happy day. He was he was just somebody like I've never known. And any of you guys that know him, he was always smiling, always laughing. He would always say, "You're just too serious. You've got to ease up. You've got to relax some." And I would say, "No, Charles, you can't do that, or you can't do this." And there were days when he would come and he would have a 40 with him, and I would say, "Well, you know, it's breakfast time. You really shouldn't be doing that." And he would say, "Look, listen, this is my night. I'm coming home after my job. This is nighttime when you get off work." And he would say, "You can't worry about what people think as long as you know." He said, "I did my job today and I did a good job." And I always remember that, you know, when people get caught up in what other people are thinking. He just plowed through it. And I mean, I'll never forget him as long as I live. He did some crazy things to me that, I mean, I kind of wish this wasn't on so I could tell you. But I'll tell you a couple. I don't think he'd get in too much trouble. When we were dating, he said he had a house in Forest Park, and I was in Westchester. And he said, "Hey, stop by." He said, "If you feel like making me a steak tonight, you can stop by the house and I'll meet you." And I said, "Okay, all right." And so I made dinner, brought it over. And in between there and the house in Forest Park, I don't know, I got mad about something. And I went in little Charles's room. I'll never forget it. He had bunk beds, those king, queen on the bottom, twin on the top, the metal like bunk beds. And I had my hand up on the bunk bed, and I was just letting him have it, like, "Charles, blah, 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 blah." All of a sudden, he went like this, and he's got a call. So I was like, "Good, because I'm leaving." All of a sudden, click, click. I am now handcuffed to the bunk bed. He said, "Don't be mad." I said, "When I get out of here, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." He said, and then he reached over and went, "Shh, you'll be fine. I'll be back. It won't be long." And sure enough, he came back. It wasn't that long. The call wasn't that long, but even he walked in the door, and I thought, I'm going to pull this bunk bed through this house. I mean, I'm mad. And he was laughing. Even at that, he wasn't scared. He said, "If you're going to act right now, I'll take this off." But I mean, there were so many stories of him when we were first dating, and right before, I said, "I've got kids, we can't date." He said, I've got a son, we can date." "No, I've got kids, we can't date." And I was going through town, coming from Tennessee, and I don't know, my sister worked here, and I was picking her up, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hear rear, 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 and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm getting stopped." And I'll never forget, every time I drive by this little church, by the hospital, he stopped me. And I was scared to death because, the police, it's in the middle of the night. And he comes up, "Hey, lady," and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's you. What are you doing? What are you doing?" He said, "I won't write you a ticket if you agree to a date." And I said, "Okay, I can't believe you're doing this. You all please do this? I don't think this is right. I think I can get you in trouble for this." And he was like, "You won't. It'll be worth it." And it was. And he made every day worth it. Even this day, even the day he left. I mean, I'll never forget that call. And I don't know if it was Pat or Captain Don. One of them called. And they said, "He's dehydrated, but he's going to be fine." And I said, "Well, he's at the hospital." And I I've thought about that many times, thinking, well, and I think I asked one of them, should I go over there? I'm not sure if this is the am I supposed to go? He's going to be okay. Is he coming home? Are y'all bringing him home? Or I never got it. I didn't get it. And I didn't get it all day. We were there, and we were all day. People were going and coming. And it's a day that you can never believe to this minute. I look at all of you, and I know your parts, and I know the stories that you've heard and all that, but I cannot believe that this happens still. But I tell you what, I'm glad to have known him. I'm glad to have loved him. I'm glad that he brought all of you in my life. Some of you are still very much in my life. And I hope that some of you that I haven't seen in a long time, that we see each other more. Because I want that. It's you are a piece of him for me. And it means a lot. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you all that were here and that worked with him. There's a couple of faces that I hope to see. Maybe I can reach out and you can tell me where these people are. But I just want to thank you to take this time today to honor Charles. And I told Kip on the way over, I said, wonder in 20 years, probably wouldn't be anybody around to stand up other than just your immediate family. So what an honor to him. And you have to know that this is time well spent. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Anyone else, please? Well, speak up then, because they're going to record this.
Just hold it. All right.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm not a gregarious person by nature, but Charles was easy to know. He had a certain aura about him. So anywhere he was, if you were close by, you just kind of got sucked into the magic. I have a couple of stories that won't make it on this camera, but a couple of things that are really, really funny. As a new guy, I'm in the locker room one time, and Charles is talking. And he's talking to a senior officer, names are out, and it was the first time that the senior officer realized that he was the one that was chasing Charles through the neighborhood at an earlier age. All right. Charles was also very quiet and very strong. There was another occasion where a senior officer was in a little bit of jeopardy, and he didn't realize it. But before something bad happened, Charles came through like a whoosh of wind, and let's just say he eliminated the problem. So the biggest thing for me is if Charles was working or you could see him, he had a tremendous smile, and it was inviting. And I'm grateful that I got to know him for the short time that it was. And my heart goes out to you. Anybody else?
We have a new guest. We've had a chance to introduce ourselves. Please, I'm Ken Hughes. I'm the former chief here.
Hello, I'm Andrea Booker. I am Charles's bonus daughter. He did not believe in the word stepchild, so I am his bonus daughter. And these are his lovely grandchildren, Dallas and Drayden.
Thank you. We've been sharing memories of Charles. I know you just walked in, but you're welcome to share. Anyone else? Would you like to share a story? Or? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's very fine. I want to say thank you again for everybody for being here. If you haven't seen Charles's memorial, Dave, it's awesome. This looks awesome. Actually, just beautiful. There's no place to park up there, but It's just beautiful. Drive by, or if you get the chance, just get out and take a look at it. What time is it? I got 15 minutes.
For the benefit of those people who are younger, could you tell where the name Major Payne comes from? Some of us don't are old enough to remember what that was, but there's some
It's your inspiration. Tell them the story about how the name Major Payne came about.
Well, just best I can remember, it was a movie, and I can't think of the guy's actor that played it. And then Charles was at Marine, you know, he loved that campaign hat. He put it on and just became a different person. He was still laughing, but thought he was a drill sergeant the whole time. And it just fitting perfectly.
It was a comedy, and it did fit Charles. Charles had that ability of personality to go from any spectrum of humanity. He could go and be comfortable with anybody, and he could also turn around and bite you in the butt if it need to. He was a very imposing man, but very rarely showed that side of him. But when the time came, he did, and when it was necessary. So I want to say thank you to Laura and Kip for providing these wreaths. We'll put them up there at the Charles McDonald Picnic Grove in his memorial. I felt a personal kinship with Charles, and much of what he described to me in the situation that he found himself in his personal life from time to time. But Charles grew up in Forest Park. He was well known. He went to the high school here, graduated. He went to the Marine Corps. He came out. He played football for the high school. He played football in the Marine Corps. Went through the basic boot camp in Marines, and none of this stuff affected him. But in his preparation for becoming a SWAT officer, he had to do an agility test. And Pat was privileged and honored to be with him on that day with another police officer named Tim Chin. And they rode out in Pat's vintage Olds 442. And we spoke a little bit about that. And they got out there, and while the process of going through the test, he's, as you described it, he was like a lion, just attacking every obstacle as hard as he possibly could, which is just part of Charles's personality. And he had this thing called a sickle cell trait that kicked in this malady called rhabdomyolysis. The body then consumes itself as if it's been seriously injured. And within about, 36 hours, he passed. Don called me on a very tough day, said Charles has passed. Well, that was June 9th of 2001, and in that phenomena that happens sometimes, all of us know what happened on 9/11 in 2001. And so in May of 2002, the National Law Enforcement Memorial occurs in Washington, D.C., and Darlene Hall, Pat Anderson, Steve Smits, and I, and Don Simpson went to the memorial, and we escorted the families of Charles's family and Laura's family to honor Charles and those officers that were there. On Monday night, during the Law Enforcement Memorial, there's a thing called the Candlelight Vigil. And the Justice Square, where the scrolls are, where all the officers' names are, I would encourage everybody who hasn't gone to go. All these memorabilia and memories occur. Things as like shots of Jose Cuervo to bulletproof vests with that officer's blood on them, or the part of a police car that has been crushed up as a result of an officer having an accident and passing away. Poignant is the families who are there, who are taking pencils, pens, ink, and tracing their loved one's name. the families gather up, and on that particular day, all the victims, survivors of 9/11 are going to join us, Charles, and those other officers who died in the line of duty. Justice Square is an entire city block. It's huge. Officers that have come there from all over the country and all over the world, as a matter of fact, honor guards line the two corridors that come down into the Justice Square where the stage is. And in the front of the stage, or two sides of it, are these big TV screens, or screens. And Don and I and Diane and the boys, we're at a hotel in Virginia, and it is a spring thunderstorm. I mean, it is coming down hard, lightning, and we rush out, get in the cab. The cab wipers, it's almost like this setting in a movie or something. They're going so hard, it can't clear it off. It's raining so hard. And we're all thinking, oh gosh, these families have gone through enough as it is. And we drove across the bridge and we drove out of that rain. Down to Justice Square, it's clouding up, and there's so many people there, 15,000 people or something, and not enough honor guard members are there, so they come along and they ask us in dress uniforms to step out and stand at attention while the families arrive in these buses. And the last buses are from the towers. And we're facing that way, and here it comes. That rain, those heavy drops are falling on our hats, and it's almost a solid, hollow sound. And I find myself, I'm praying to my Lord. That's all Donnie, he's doing the same. Please don't let this happen to them, Lord. It starts raining harder. It starts falling harder. The buses pull up, and the folks come down. As they're coming down the aisle, it's just getting dusk. And these two screens light up. And it's a video honoring those who have fallen in the line of duty. And Sarah McLachlan's song comes on. I will remember you. Will you remember me? So it's not just raindrops falling off my face. It stops raining. Cloud opens up, and there's a rainbow. I mean, across the sky, a beautiful rainbow. And moments later, there's a second rainbow above it. The entire crowd erupts into applause to the sky. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Lord's miracle for me. I share that story from time to time. You share it too. That this profession is a noble cause. It's one that men and women die for. It's one of sacrifice of not just your lives, but of your personal experiences. There are many ways to pass. I have said to Charles many times, in my home is a small memorial to Charles in my police basement that my wife gave me. I often speak to him. I share this with you. I want to say thank you again for coming and being with us. For Charles is worth remembering, and so is this profession. And so are each of you who serve, not just this community, but those who serve in uniform, men and women, across this country, in our streets and alleys, in valleys and hills, but the men and women in uniform across this world who serve in jungles and alleys, on the ocean and in the air. I'm not sure what your faith is, but my faith is this, is that the Lord was looking out for Charles and all of us that day, and that miracle where that rain just stopped, and those rainbows appeared was a testament and an affirmation of our faith and in my Lord and in Charles. I'd like to gather everybody together and say a prayer. Come on up. Close in. I just want to stand up and testify.
Give me that mic.
You want to say something?
No, I'm just taking it away from you. They told me.
Lord, we thank you for this gathering, those who remember Charles and those who have served our country, our nation, this state, and this community. We thank you, Lord, for this privilege and ask you, Lord, to continue to remember and watch over those who are out there serving to each of us. Public service is a noble cause. We thank you, Lord, again for this friendship and this moment in time to remember somebody special. In your name we pray. Amen.